Are we ready? All right. Welcome to the Foundation of Faith Sunday School lesson that was supposed to be April 19th. It's covering Hannah, Eli, and Samuel. 1 Samuel 1:1 to 2:1, and chapter 3, 1 through 20. We're not going to read all that because we run out of time. So and you attended Sunday school or you went to Vacation Bible School, these stories are probably familiar to you. But first, let's look at some background. This passage describes actions that took place around 200 years after the people of Israel entered the land of Canaan. With Joshua, they had conquered the land and divided it up by tribes descended from the sons of Jacob. The descendants of Levi, however, didn't get a land, they got cities. So that drops it from 12 to 11. However, the tribes descended from Joseph's son, Ephraim and Manasseh, each received a parcel of land. The tribes were sort of a loose confederacy based on their religion. They'd sometimes get together to help each other fight off enemies. And most, during this time, they were ruled by a number of judges. Our study today takes place in the lands given to the tribe of Ephraim, one of Joseph's sons, and probably occurred around 1050 BCE. And just as a reference point, the Greek-Trojan Wars occurred around 1190 BCE. So they occurred before, after the Israelites left Egypt in the Exodus and the time we're looking at here. So location is Shiloh, and it was located where the tabernacle and the Ark of the Covenant were located. I believe Joshua had them set there. And this is some 20 or so miles from the current day Jerusalem. Elkanah, an Ephraimite, so he lives in that land somewhere, had two wives. Is that a familiar story there? One, Peninnah, had children, and one, Hannah, had no children. Does the story of a barren woman sound familiar? Think of Sarah and Abraham, Rachel, Samson's mother, and Elizabeth, mother of John the Baptist. So every year, Elkanah journeyed from his hometown. They're not real sure where it was. It's Ramah or Ramathon. So it could be from 10 to 25 miles away. I'm pretty sure it wasn't just an easy walk to get there. Would come to Shiloh every year to worship and sacrifice. And as Jacob so loved Rachel, Elkanah loved Hannah. And Peninnah teased her mercilessly for being barren. Obviously, this greatly upset Hannah. On one of these pilgrimages, Hannah, whose name means grace, wept and prayed before the Lord. Let me read that. This is chapter 1, verse 11. She made this vow: O Lord of hosts, if only you will look on the misery of your servant and remember me and not forget your servant, but will give to your servant a male child, then I will set him before you as a Nazirite until the day of his death. He shall drink neither wine nor intoxicants, and no razor shall touch his head. Sounds sort of like Samson. Note that she didn't pray for a child, She paid for a boy. But remember, this is a very patriarchal society, so don't be too hard on her. Eli is the priest, and in fact, this is the only mention of Eli. I look back, I thought I'd find something about him. These chapters are the only mentioning of Eli and his family. But Eli sees her praying and thinks that she's drunk. She explains that she has been pouring out her soul to the Lord. Eli wisely accepts her petition, or her explanation, and says, "Go in peace. The God of Israel grant the petition you made to him." And after that, it says, Hannah's countenance was sad no longer. So she believed God that he would answer her prayer. And not long after going back, Hannah conceived and bore a son that she named Samuel. That is, the Lord has heard. That's what Samuel means. Now, when Samuel was old enough, Hannah brought him to Shiloh, as she had vowed to God she would do, and she left him with Eli. I'm not sure what age, it just says after he was weaned. I'm not sure what age he was, but I can't see a toddler being too much help to Eli, who was old and going blind. How do you think Hannah felt on her way home? Have you ever dropped a child off at summer camp or youth camp, or taken a child for their first year at college, and how you felt when you left them there? You can get an inkling of how Hannah probably felt. In chapter 2, we see that Hannah visits him every year and brings him a new ephod, or a robe. Now, I can't see a teenage boy having just one robe a year during his growth spurt, but I guess he made it through. Also, I would encourage you to read at least Hannah's prayer at the start of chapter 2. It's very beautiful. Oh, by the way, God gave Elkanah and Hannah more children. Now we're going to move to the story in chapter 3, which you probably are more familiar with from your Sunday schools. First, let me mention that in verse 1, there's an interesting statement. It says, the word of the Lord was rare in those days. Visions were not widespread. So whoever wrote this section is looking back from some time where the word of the Lord is or had been frequent, and visions were or had been widespread. So maybe this is a clue to the time it was written. By the way, it's not named Samuel because he wrote it. It's because he is one of the main characters. But in fact, he dies at the end of 1 Samuel. And so he's not even in 2 Samuel. It is believed that the 2 books of Samuel and the 2 books of Kings were once one scroll, one book. And then it was divided into Samuel and Kings. And then when they did the Septuagint and put it in Greek where they had vowels, it got too big. So they had to split it up. So before the lamp had gone out one night, the almost blind Eli was lying down in his room, and Samuel was lying down in the temple of the Lord with the ark of God in the room. I'm not sure I would want to sleep in that. That would be scary for me. When Samuel heard someone say, Samuel, Samuel, he thought it was Eli and ran to him saying, here I am. Eli said that he didn't call him and told Samuel to go back to bed. I'm pretty sure he was thinking Samuel must have been dreaming. This happened 2 more times. In verse 7, after the second time, it says that Samuel did not yet know the Lord, and the word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. I'm wondering if this might be like saying, in the fullness of time, God presented himself to him. So, and then on the third time, the weary Eli finally perceives that it is the Lord calling him. And he says, if there's a next time, Samuel, answer, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. Samuel obeys, and the Lord came and stood before him. That's what it says. Now, we know that God only let Moses see him passing, and that made his face shine. So I'm guessing, I would assume that this would be a sort of like the men that came to visit Abraham. So the Lord told Samuel that he was about to do something that would, quote, make both ears of anyone who hears of it tingle. I just love that expression. So he told him that Eli's house had fallen out of favor because the evil that his sons had committed. So Eli had two sons. Let's see. Well, he had two sons, but they were not very good priests, let's just say. Because of the evil that they had committed and Eli's failure to do something about it, he one time said to him, "Why do you do all these things?" And that's about it. So perhaps Eli was not only physically blind, but spiritually blind when it came to his sons. Hesitantly, Samuel, upon Eli's urging, tells him of the prophecy. Eli says, "It is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him." Read chapter 2, verse 19 through 21. I'm sorry, chapter 3, 19 through 21. As Samuel grew up, the Lord was with him, and none of his words fall to the ground. And all Israel from Dan to Beersheba knew that Samuel was a trustworthy prophet of the Lord. The Lord continued to appear at Shiloh, for the Lord revealed himself to Samuel at Shiloh by the word of the Lord. So, what do I get out of it? What do I learn here? Samuel was sort of a transitional figure. He was the last of the judges. He became high priest, although he was not of the tribe, the house of Levi. He's an Ephraimite. He was the first official prophet. There had been some other prophets here and there, but he was sort of the start of the prophetic period. And he was the anointer of the first king of Israel, Saul. But that story is a tale for another day. You can talk about that. From Elkanah, I learned to be faithful in my worship. From Hannah, I learned to pray earnestly to the Lord, to believe his promises, and to fulfill my commitments to the Lord. From Samuel, I learned to say, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." Praise be to God. Thank you.